I welcome you all to our conference, Self-Awareness, Being Yourself. Today our guest is going to be Dr. Janka Schlettwein. Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Janka Schlettwein studied sciences, more precisely biochemistry, and later on she took on a path of natural healing, specialized in homeopathy and neuroshamanism, which eventually became her profession. The first question I'd like to ask you, Janka, is what does self-awareness and being yourself in general means to you, personally? For me, awareness is very tightly correlated to recognition. Well, there's the basic way of being aware. We could call it small, for instance, okay, now I'm sitting on this chair. I'm breathing, I'm looking at you, I'm talking to you, and in this way, you're sort of pointing the awareness at different things at will that are happening in the present moment. You could then bring further awareness and become aware of the fact that you, for example, always get annoyed by the same things and that the same things bring you joy over and over, make you happy. And the next step will be to start wondering about who is it that is becoming aware, in fact, and what's happening there. So basically, it's a big hide and seek game, and it doesn't differ very much from a research project, in my view. Yeah, hide and seek, I like that image. I mean, you were into sciences. How did you make that step to becoming a natural healer? How did that all happen for you? How did that come together? Well, I think that first of all, it's about the two fields not being as distant from each other and not as clashing as everybody seems to think nowadays. Observing, for example, is very crucial for both, and also the aspect of forming an opinion as you go, but not necessarily to already have one about a certain topic. And I believe this is universally important in life, no matter the field. To me, it's really about curiosity to get into something without knowing anything about it in advance, or not to have the pretension to know anything in advance. So, Janka, was there a particular event in your life that pushed you towards or on that particular spiritual path? I think that the biggest thing for me was the experience of becoming a mother. So, I had already realized in advance that being a present mother, as I really wish to be, and keep working on my scientific researches, really focusing on both, was simply impossible for me. And it was something I didn't even want to try to begin with. I knew I had to take a decision at the given moment, and the experience to give birth to a being which already possesses his own personality, that is bringing so much along with him into this physical body and starts developing himself from there. All of this brings about a very, how can I say, a sensitive mood, a new curiosity that maybe in yourself that is maybe mirroring what's happening inside of your child, and it really makes you want to explore new things in a free way. My next question will be, what is neuroshamanism? I mean, shamanism, we're all familiar with this term, is well known, but what about neuroshamanism? Well, for me, I was going about it the other way around, actually. I mean, in my previous professional field, neurology was very, very familiar to me, a term very close to me. So, exploring the way our brain is processing informations, or maybe not just the brain, I mean, some kind of being inside of us, it doesn't always have to be all about humans. Well, anyway, it is something very, very present in science, whereas in shamanism, this kind of process is like a big, dark, hidden drawer that we might as well leave untouched, and where we can hide all the things we don't particularly like to look at. And yeah, when I finally dared to open that drawer, I realized there were no monsters in it, no ghosts, no dangers. I realized it was full of treasures, really, and it was really fun to explore too. I said to myself, this actually might be the challenge of our time, to build this bridge, maybe. Not just having to choose between being rational, logical, working in a scientific, organized, and stuck up and serious way, or on the other hand, being a bit off, esoteric, I mean, into spirituality and a bit all over the place, really messy. We have this image of spiritual people, and if you can really build connections between these two opposites and realize, hey, we're all getting at the same thing here. We're all speaking about the same stuff. We're just handling it differently. We're just going about it in a different way. And yeah. So, who were your teachers on this path? Life. Life was my biggest teacher, and it was such a lovely teacher that it brought all sorts of lovely people into my life as well. And it brought me to discover different teachings that really helped me to go more in depth. I would like to go back to Vanessa's question before. And what is neuroshamanism exactly? I still don't get it. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Yeah, so for me, first of all, it's part of that building a bridge project of mine I was talking about before. It helps people coming from the scientific sector to dare to take a first step into this field, in this direction, to give it a go. And I don't think I work very particularly differently than others do. I mean, yes, of course, everyone works with his individual flair and brings his individual, a certain kind of, yeah, different taste to it. But I certainly offer this element of bridging these two worlds, and I am there to explain and guide people coming from a similar background than mine, someone who feels at home in logical and rational thinking. I am able to use their same language and offer the words in a way they can understand and in a way they are able to implement them. Yeah, I think that's great because normally it's either this or that, and you're connecting these two things. I think that's wonderful, fantastic. Well, I'm very far from being the only one. It's happening. It's happening at multiple levels all around the world, and I think it's just wonderful. It works. These two worlds are bridgeable, or you can connect them. It fits. It works. In everyday life, we encounter the word spirituality very often. You are really, really integrating shamanism into your daily routine, aren't you? Yes, 100%, for sure. That was a very important and necessary step as a young mother. And if you try to keep these kind of things apart, it gets very frustrating, very, very tiring as well. Like, oh no, I can't now, I need to sit down and meditate for half an hour. Well, but I've got to change diaper to my baby, what am I gonna do? You see, it's always about trying to keep things apart. It doesn't work. We need to learn to bridge things, to connect, to integrate them all. It was a very pragmatic decision, a very practical conclusion I had to draw here. You can be spiritual, you can be mindful and interested in energies and how they flow in at any given moment. You don't have to cut out a moment to be mindful and then the next moment you forget all about it while you cook, while you go to work. It always works, and I think that's exactly where we're heading at the moment. That people start to realize that it's easy, that I don't have to run off to a monastery in Tibet. I don't have to wear a particular shade all the time. It's all very, very, very simple. So to become yourself, yeah, to become more and more aware of all that you are. I think that's the way, and I think that's what spirituality is all about, or should be all about. I think it's beautiful that this opened up for us nowadays. Nowadays, it wasn't quite like this a few years ago. Spirituality raised reaction like, "Ooh, what's this?" Like you said beautifully before, like a hidden box that you shouldn't open. You better leave it very far off from you. And this view is changing in society. I really feel it in Middle Europe, at least. Yeah, you're right. I am perceiving this kind of shift in the collective consciousness as well. There's a lot of things flourishing, blooming, getting ready and ripe. I think the time before ours was absolutely necessary as well. People were planting seeds, people were protecting the seeds in times where we cannot even imagine this kind of time where these two spheres were very, very, very distant from each other. And to protect this potential was such a tremendous effort. I'd like to ask you who planted the seeds for you that are obviously flourishing really beautifully right now? Well, I've had many planting my seeds, and the first was my grandmother. She was from Latvia and was reading the cards herself, and she was a very silent woman. She wasn't saying much most of the time, like we would imagine a grandma telling stories. She was very, very silent, and but I remember being with her and going through the fields and looking for camomiles, the flowers. And I would bring her flower after flower after flower, and she would reject them all until she found the one. And it would be the only one she picked. And she wouldn't reveal to me why that chamomile was the one. She she had this complete reliance on her instinct. She was fully relying on her intuition. And I love I love how she would take her time to feel what is right, what isn't. And later on during my trainings, I was under a priest, Mother Nakin. Very, very traditional, very, very structural. There were many, many levels of hierarchy. I was having a little bit of trouble with personally, since my ways of thinking aren't very hierarchical at all. And after that, I was doing a particular healing training that was also kind of presenting a bridge between the Western scientific way of thinking to the knowledge of a tribe directly descending from the Inca Empire. They reside in Peru and are called the Giro tribe. So during the Reconquest at the time, they just simply disappeared among the mountains. They became invisible. And some anthropologists eventually, if we could say that, discovered them, if we may say, or maybe we shall say they let themselves be discovered. I don't remember the exact year, but it must have been in the 60s, 1960s, because in their prophecies, it was predicted that that time would be right, that the knowledge had to be spread. They realized the time had come to, if we want to use that image, to come down from the mountain. The wise man comes down from the mountain to teach. It is time to open up. It is time to forgive. I mean, to forgive must have been such a gigantic challenge for them collectively as a tribe, that they must have realized that the people here down the mountain are now mature enough, that they are now ready to take it. And these Kiro are very, very lovely and very, very practical, pragmatic mountain people as we know them in Switzerland. And they say we're not going to directly teach you anything. Come on, it's not even possible for us. We've lived such different lives. We've grown apart over all these years, and we're standing somewhere that we're not even able to understand your problems. So what they did is they limited the teachings to a few people that maybe felt some kind of calling to go towards them and to develop. And so they taught a few people and then sent them off to spread the knowledge to the world. And Alberto Villoldo was one of these people. He founded a very beautiful and very important school. This was my first big, big, big step. And looking back, it really consisted of taking many, many small little steps together. It's building up. And yeah, after that, I visited another school from another Quechua tribe that represented maybe the next generation of the Pachos. And their children, it's very different from the Girs. I mean, their children are absolutely fluent in Spanish. They visit the normal schools, and they're not just they don't just speak Quechua. Different they have a different approach to teaching in this tribe. They're more confident about teaching directly to people because they know they're not so they don't feel as strangers to our world maybe as the Girs do. But and even the very elder generations admit that it can work, that the time is ready, we can come together. You are not as tight as you used to be. We opened up to new possibilities of meeting you as well, and we will give it a go. That's the flair that is coming from them. And they come to Europe twice a year to teach. And again, this was for me like a second chance to work with these seeds, to let them bloom, and to teach some gardening skills to our folks that have long gone forgotten. And yeah, this is a knowledge that we are not in contact with, we're not in touch with. How do I nourish my seeds? How do I water my plants? I must say, I see so much joy and authenticity in this teaching. What are the main characteristics of this teaching? What do they teach? And what's special about it? Well, from our perspective, it is really about going in depth in how you feel as an individual and to see this as a part of the work too. Secondly, that everything is available to us and there is nothing to do, but you have to really allow it to happen. So actually, we shouldn't even be asking money for this because it just happens and unfolds all by itself. Uh, a key image for me as a guy that has accompanied me all these years is the image of a teepee, in very big teepee, and in the middle burns a fire, huge fire. What I'm doing, I'm just protecting the fire, and all the others that I'm helping can sleep, can rest, can rejuvenate. They haven't got anything to do. I can cover them up if I see that they're getting cold, but otherwise, I'm just looking after a fire. That's my job. So, focusing on what's important now, yeah, what's important, and to give space to people where people can lay down, sleep. If we might stay with this image of the fire, there is no bear that can attack you. It's not gonna rain on your face. It's gonna be warm, you're safe, someone is there, someone is looking after the fire, and you're safe. And things can come to you, things can happen, things can resolve because the environment you're in is safe. You must have all sorts of people coming to you. What do you feel are their motivations? What are they looking for? I mean, when they come to you, they're obviously looking for something. That's a very good question. I think nowadays it presents itself like a hunger. People coming to me feel a part of themselves that is not being nourished properly. But I cannot really understand what it is. It can be really, really trivial. I mean, very often you feel trapped in a drama. Something like, I'm a victim. That's a big classic to be a victim, but that's just the surface. I think underneath there's this big hunger. I'm hungry for healing. I'm hungry to remember that I haven't always been hungry. I'm hungry to remember that a part of me has always been healed. So maybe it's something you can't really explain. It's just a feeling telling you, I need something different than traditional medical help. Yeah, that's it. I don't have anything against it, but I feel that I need some complementary help, yeah. Talking about fears, I'm sure you have a lot of people coming to you that must be clinging onto fears. What do you do with them? How do you help them to let go of these fears? Well, the metaphor I used before of the fire wasn't all bad to explain this, right? I just build a very, very safe environment, a very big TP, a very big fire. I give out many, many blankets, and yeah, I invite them to calm down, to have a look together at all the resources that are there that we have. We've got so much. We've got so much. Of course, then I individually help them to find their way back to their resources, but nothing more than that. Of course, yeah, there are some practices to build their soul back, to make it complete again. And we work with images to kind of draw back all the lost pieces of soul. So you're basically talking about tidying up your basement, opening up all the doors, shaking off the dust. Exactly, to let the light in and let the warmth in. Yeah, and reactivate some capacities that we weren't aware of too, to rediscover your potential. I think it's really more about becoming aware of everything that is. How do you think? How do you experience people coming back to their true self? How does that all happen? Well, it happens step by step. I don't know. We're all always on our way. We all know these little games that make us up, these little stories we keep telling ourselves that, wow, I did this completely wrong, I'm so stupid, we must have made some mistake here and there for this and this and this. And to get into a different field, the field of asking yourself, who is telling these stories after all? And above all, why? And what is hiding behind my fear? That's far more interesting than believing in it, right? How did it form? Where does it come from? What is it that we are so afraid to find out that we have to create such a complex story to distance ourselves from? What is this story protecting us from? Maybe fear is just a gift. We're also afraid of fear, but being afraid of fear, it is not necessary. What would you say is our biggest number one fear? Okay, that's a very, very difficult question there. I think the biggest fear we have is the fear of this overwhelming life force hidden beneath us that is just unbelievably strong. Very scary. Very, very scary. But this isn't a fear that people are normally very conscious of. Normally, people are conscious of fears like I'm not being loved, I'm not being included, I'm not good enough, that sort of thing. But that's just a surface, like to cover up this very big life force. Wow, this is very interesting. So you're saying that we place ourselves in front of the light. Of course, yeah. But I think that's human life. That's what human life is all about. Because if you leave, imagine you would leave and there's just light. Then things in our life would change so dramatically we wouldn't even be able to live. You need the play between light and darkness. and shadows in order to experience things in the first place, in order to be able to discern things. But yeah, of course we're standing in light or in between lights. You mentioned drama just before, and now we're talking duality, light and darkness. This work would lead you to ultimately understand what duality is through this work. I think one of the main problems many people have when they come to me, they desire just light. They just long for light. And I think, yeah, it's a beautiful image to look at the sky at night, and it's just so dark. And you have many light spots, many stars, and people could start to wonder if that star is emitting so much light. I mean, our sun is a star. Why on all earth is there darkness in between them? Right? Why isn't the whole sky just white? And the answer is that if there is light, just light, which is immaterial, it would end up being dark again. A little bit of matter is needed for the light to show up, and consequently, shadows build. That's all there's to it. And that's the game we're playing here on planet Earth as human beings. There is always going to be shadows. There's always going to be darkness. Our body is made out of matter. We are the ones that can reflect light. But the condition for it is that we become dark also. And the true, real darkness is something that is just belonging there as much as light. What you can work with and are rather the gray zones, the zones that are lacking clarity. That's terrifying. Clear light, clear shadows, both good. Problem is we grow up thinking that light is positive and darkness is negative. For me, it's also about working with this gray aspect, these shadows, and try to figure out what their good side is. No, no, no. No, no. I think the real shadow is always very powerful. And in the gray zones, there's a lot of work because it's all about in the gray zone, you're not taking decision. You're very indecisive. Is it light? Is it darkness? I don't know. It's not clear. Once you decided, here is the light, here is the dark, then's alright. And I can shine in darkness. I mean, also darkness has its own power. Yeah, of course. So if you put yourself in darkness, a part of you becomes light. Thanks to you, it becomes visible. I think it's a very thrilling game. Shamanism works a lot with ancestors too. Do you work with ancestors as well? If I see that it is necessary, yeah, I work with ancestors too. So it's all about dissipating, giving back what doesn't belong to me anymore, to find your place among the ancestors. Yeah, very often we carry family issues with us. Maybe we do something rather than something else because the grandfather or grandmother did it. There might be confusion as to who is the parent, who is the child. Maybe because times were difficult and the mother was just very young, was just 15. These sort of things. These sort of things, I think it's necessary to clear them up. And it is beneficial for both parties. It ends up being beneficial for the whole system, really. Wonderful. What changed radically in your life since you took on a path of spirituality and shamanism professionally? How has your life changed? We could say that I became more aware, and many things, you don't take them personally anymore. You just realize something comes. Okay, what does it mean for me? Can I let it through? Am I gonna get angry? Am I afraid? Am I falling into a previous pattern I know? Or is it something new? Is there something new happening here? Life just isn't so personal anymore. And I think it's an incredible, liberating experience. Like this comes to my mind through curiosity, through play, game, to stop taking things personally, stop being so serious. True possibilities for development show up at the door, and you also create new things for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. But what also falls off is this constant feeling of needing to develop yourself. You have to do something new. No, these things just create themselves. It's you don't have to do anything. It's much less about what do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go? Yeah, you just really simply sit here on this chair. Exactly. Body. It is made out of matter. How do you personally take care of yours? I'm referring to diet and movement, like sports. How do you treat your body in day to day life? Well, I listen to it mainly, but I always have. I believe that's got nothing to do with my spirituality. So if I feel that my body needs movement, I will do some sports. What changed maybe from before? Well, before I was pushing myself. I was running miles and miles and come on, another minute, another sprint. Now, on the other hand, I just do it as long as I can have fun with it and then I stop. And I can stop. I mean, sometimes it can be fun to push. Like, yeah, come on, go, go. And even as nutrition goes, I don't have any strict beliefs about what you should and shouldn't and what you can and can't eat. My body communicates with me. Every single cell is talking to me all the time. What I can do, I can just listen. This is also very important to me to transmit to my children that it's okay to celebrate life, which doesn't mean to reach and take whatever you like at the moment. This would be hedonistic and uncontrolled. But yeah, if you want to make a chips party on all Earth, why not? And it's nice to remember that you can. I find pleasure to be something fantastic, and there you can't stand in your own way. It's part of life. When it comes to eating, for instance, if we're talking about eating, it's also giving you some energy in a way or another, if it's healthy or unhealthy. I'm sure some people will have to object in this point. I think pleasure is the energy that should guide you through life really. We all know that if we eat with a sensation of guilt, we are gonna eat the whole bar of chocolate and still be utterly unsatisfied. And on top of that, new guilt builds up because we actually didn't want to eat the bar in the first place. So that's so useless. It's a circle of uselessness. It's 10 times better to sit down, be honest to yourself, and say, okay, I really, really, really feel like eating this chocolate now, and I'm going to enjoy it. And then you're here and present to the bloody chocolate, and maybe you don't need the whole chocolate bar. Maybe a wonderful coin is enough. Well, maybe that day you happen to need the whole damn thing, but which is fine, but you can stand up for what you do. You're there. This approach is very tied to self-confidence. Would you say that this work on mindfulness is directly linked with one's self-confidence and courage to stand up for something? I think above all to stand up for what one does. Yeah. The game of I am a victim, or was I a helper, or oh gosh, maybe I am the offender. No, you step out of this and say, I decide what I need right now and I do it. And if someone comes up to you and says, you shouldn't have done that, you say, well, yes, it felt right at that moment. So to stand up for your own truth. You offer rituals as well. What kind of rituals do you offer? Well, one ritual very, very close to my heart that I love to do is called bacho. It is something very, very similar to the concept of mandala that might be more familiar with you. That you create it together out of natural substances. It represents a ritual of gratefulness for Mother Earth, who is providing all the materials and our fantastic metabolism, and it is incredibly exciting. A lot of personal things flow into it. It's just all about abundance and joy of life, 100%. You could do it with jelly babies, glitter, whatever you find beautiful. It's super beautiful. And it's also contemporary. You can take a picture. We usually take a picture of it when it's done, which is something we love to do in nowadays society, taking pictures. Yeah. Then you just wrap it up. And in the end, we get rid of it. So we burn it off, or you throw it in a river or a lake, or you bury it. You somehow let go of it. You create something together, then you celebrate it together, and in the end, you let it go. It is something I just love to do. It's very, very close to my heart, as I said before. So you're encouraging collectiveness. Is it? I mean, it's also part of the process, right? We do it all together. Yeah, I mean, you can also do it by yourself, but of course, doing something together allows a lot more energy to flow into it. But obviously, the personal issues you bring are the ones carrying the transformative power of the ritual. Things that are somehow stuck somewhere to get them moving again. Do you have a special power animal accompanying you through life? I have several power animals. Depends on the day. Well, you know, for me it's always been a lot about lightness. In my trainings too. So there's been a lot of birds. Many different sensitive and light birds. Like a hummingbird. That actually happens to be one of the names given to me in one of my first trainings. Really, to me, the force of the hummingbird is lightness and the strength of being in the present moment. And to know where your nectar is. Yeah, to know where to get the chocolate. Did you know hummingbirds are flying from America to South America every year? A tremendous effort. Can you imagine what sense of direction it is required for such a journey? They follow the stars. They're orienting themselves with the stars. They need to trust the stars. And if you think about it, it's a bird that needs to drink and eat every 2 hours. That's a hell of a journey for a small hummingbird. He needs to fly over the Gulf of Mexico, where it cannot eat for several hours, and it just exemplifies that impossible is nothing. To make the impossible possible, something that you created for yourself in a very aware way. I I just do it. If I feel that it works, then it is possible. The impossible comes from other people. Yeah, yeah. Impossible comes from other people. For yourself, everything is possible, especially if you do it with lightness. What I also love about the hummingbird is that when it realizes that it's too far, it is too tired, it would just attach to another bird and tell it, hey, now your turn to fly. That's so cool. It's just a great bird. Yeah, so to realize what I can do and what is too much for me. Exactly, absolutely. Do I really need to push, or can I make things easy for me? Well, we see this really often in life. People with this kind of attitude of, oh, I need to be strong, I need to be the strongest. I mean, you can if you want, if you like, but it's not necessary. I can really feel this coming from you. I can do everything if I do it with lightness, with a certain element of play. If I just try and take breaks in between. Yeah, and I'm always inviting people to do that. We're coming from a place where body and mind, everything, everything needs to be so serious and composed. And for shamanic understanding, it's all about forces that are actually bigger than us. We don't have to control everything, we don't have to control ourselves. I am the king of the jungle, but still, I am not the king of the universe. I think that's a really important element in our planet. It's true. It's true. And to develop some capacities for yourself and receive power animals, and you can learn a lot on how to apply it in your life. These are archetypes of young, right? Images. I must say, you emanate a lot of trust, a lot of confidence. How have you managed to develop it? Or is it something that you were born with, that you've always had? I really have no idea. Maybe if you've been working on these topics for such a long time, like I have, for example, during peak experiences, something suddenly opens up and lets a lot of confidence flow in. That's a step into becoming aware that life goes on, that nothing can break it, that your soul, your essence is always there, to realize, recognize nothing can break me. Yeah, or that the awareness cannot be destroyed rather than me. Yeah, with me I mean that. But there is something that can just keep being, and we're just having our experience here. You just get there through work, deeper and deeper. working with past lifetimes. At first, it's hard to imagine that such a thing even exists, but when you realize it's opening up, it's blooming, I am big, and I mean I as an essence, an awareness. For me, it's like energy. It's always there in different shapes, but it's always there. So the energy is always messing around, and awareness likes to tidy up. To play is an energy too. Yeah, for sure. And it's not always tidy, but it's part of it. Something uncontrolled. Well, I think it's important to realize that control is where fear feels most at home. Talking about everyday life, do you have some small little exercises for us that we can easily implement in our day to day lives? I mean, many are stressed and have little time. I mean, going back to what you were saying before, if I need to change the diapers, I can't meditate. How can I center myself? How can I calm myself down in day to day life? Or how can I feel myself? Breath. Breath, for me, it's very central. If you are somewhere, you don't have many possibilities, you can just breathe, breathe, breathe deeper and deeper into the belly, through the nose, and you can send the breath where you feel that you have something that is tightening up. And with every inhale, you bring the breath to the area, and in the break in between inhale and exhale, you kind of loosen up the grip, and it's kind of like you're hooking your breath into the tight area, like you're fishing it out. And while you exhale, you let it go, and you imagine that it's coming out of your nose. And you can trust that it will solve itself. Maybe not now, but it will. It will go away. And this is the easiest exercise that you can always use. When talking about shamanism, we immediately connect it with drums and singing. Is this also part of your practice, or rather not? Yes, sure it is. Sound is a very important aspect of my practice. I own a couple of drums and I love them. I mainly use them for individual sessions because our practice is in the middle of the city, but we do it in groups too. Machitun, for example, is a form of Chilean shamanism. Um, Sound is something really powerful. I mean, these vibrations are just great when they get transmitted to the body. So many things start to happen on so many levels. And yeah, beating the drums is really connecting you to earth. Yeah, yeah, it is really grounding. Many things happen. It brings you back to the ground, but also brain waves connect to these vibrations and start to adapt. So much happens because depending on our brain waves, we start to enter different states of consciousness, like trance, like being in trance. I mean, beating the drums can lead to trance. Yes, for example, yeah, for instance. From there, you can go in depth and perceive yourself maybe differently, and that can leave a mark. You know, it can happen even without drums. Just when you're not forcing anything, you're not doing anything. It's not necessary, but it's very helpful. Well, yeah, we react a lot to sound, to music, to singing, to rhythms in general. We react on a physical level, but also emotionally, and there's always a response from our part. Do you have a special motto for life that you like to share with us? Something, maybe something that has accompanied you for a very long time, something that has helped you many times and just has been with you for throughout your life so far. I haven't really got some theme that has followed me for a very long time because I like to change So actually, but last week someone I stumbled upon a funny one which goes just this. Just this. And I think it really fits. Just this. I like that. Janka, I want to thank you very, very much for this extremely interesting conversation. Thank you for having me.